Have you ever noticed something in your child that made you pause, but you weren't sure if it was just a phase or something more? Maybe they avoid eye contact, or they're a little too sensitive to loud noises. These might seem like small things, but they could be signs of autism, signs that many parents miss, or simply brush off as quirky behavior. It's easy to overlook, especially when there's so much going on in your everyday life. But here's the thing. Catching these signs early can make all the difference in how your child grows, learns, and connects with the world around them. If you're wondering whether something you've noticed in your child is worth paying attention to, then stick around, because in this video, we're going to explore some of the most subtle signs of autism that most parents don't even realize they're missing. Understanding them could be the first step in giving your child the support they deserve. Hi there, I'm Emily, and welcome to Parenting Beyond Labels, your go-to space for practical tips and support when it comes to raising neurodiverse children. If you're here, you might be wondering if your child is showing signs of autism, or if there's something you've noticed that feels just a little different. Well, you're in the right place. But I have to ask, are you really going to leave this video without subscribing? Think about it. If you don't take that step right now, you might miss out on crucial advice that could help your child today. Don't risk your child's future. Hit subscribe, and let's make sure you stay informed with every new piece of valuable information we share. Our mission here is to help parents just like you by providing valuable insights, advice, and strategies that make parenting a neurodiverse child a little bit easier and a lot more rewarding. Now let me ask you, have you ever felt like something was off with your child's behavior, but didn't know if it was worth worrying about? That nagging feeling you get when they're acting in ways that feel a bit outside the norm? Well, today, we're going to uncover 5 subtle signs of autism that many parents miss or just don't recognize right away. These signs can be tricky, and if you don't act now, it might be too late for early intervention. Wouldn't you regret not knowing what these signs look like? Hit that subscribe button before it's too late to give your child the help they deserve. Here's the thing. Autism affects each child differently. Some kids show very clear signs, while others can go under the radar for a while, especially if you're a parent just trying to get through the daily routine. So in today's video, we're going to talk about those signs that are easy to miss and why they're so important. And don't worry, I'm not just going to talk at you. I'm going to walk you through what these signs look like in real life, so you'll actually know what to look for. And here's the best part. Stick with me all the way to the end, because I'm also going to share some actionable steps you can take if you recognize any of these signs in your child. You don't have to just sit with the uncertainty or confusion. There are things you can do right now to help your child thrive. So by the end of this video, you'll not only have a better understanding of autism and its more subtle signs, but you'll also have a clearer idea of the next steps you can take to support your child, wherever they are on their journey. Before we get into the signs, let's quickly touch on what autism really is, especially for those of you who might be new to this journey. Autism is a spectrum, which means that it can be easy to miss early signs. But you don't want to wait too long to figure this out. Every day counts in your child's development. If you leave this video without subscribing, how can you be sure you'll have all the resources you need when something important comes up? Don't risk it. Subscribe now and ensure you're always one step ahead for your child's future. It's called a spectrum because it affects each child differently. Some kids may have noticeable challenges in one area, like communication, while others may struggle with social interaction or sensory issues. What makes autism so tricky is that some signs are obvious, like repetitive behaviors or language delays. But there are also signs that are much more subtle, and those are often the ones that get missed. These early, subtle signs can make a world of difference when it comes to helping your child access the support they need early on. Research shows that early intervention can significantly improve outcomes for children with autism, helping them build skills that last a lifetime and improving their quality of life. So let's take a look at some of these signs that could easily slip under the radar. Understanding these might just help you recognize something earlier and get your child the support they need sooner. One of the first subtle signs many parents might miss is social engagement, or more specifically, the lack of it. Children with autism may struggle with social interactions in ways that aren't immediately obvious. For instance, they might avoid making eye contact, or they may have a hard time reading social cues, like understanding when it's their turn to speak in a conversation. They might also seem uninterested in playing with peers, or have difficulty engaging in group activities. Let me share a story. I once worked with a child named Max, who was often labeled as a shy by his teachers and classmates. Max would sit in the corner during group play and didn't seem to respond when other kids tried to engage him. His parents just thought he was introverted. But as time went on, they realized that Max wasn't just shy. He was having trouble interpreting the social environment around him. After further evaluation, it turned out he was showing signs of autism, and his social difficulties were actually a big clue. Now here's what you can watch for. If your child seems disinterested in others, or they struggle with joint attention, like pointing at something and expecting the other person to look, this could be an early sign. Joint attention is that moment when you point at something, and the other person looks at it with you. It's a basic social skill that many children with autism struggle with. Another subtle sign of autism that many parents miss is sensory sensitivities. Children with autism can be either hypersensitive or hyposensitive to sensory input. What does that mean? Well, they might be overly sensitive to things like bright lights, loud noises, or certain textures. Or, on the flip side, they may not react to sensory input the way most kids do, like not noticing pain or not responding to a very strong smell. Take, for example, Lily. She used to cover her ears whenever she went to a restaurant or even to a friend's house, and she would cry or act out if the lights were too bright. Her parents thought she was just being dramatic, but it turned out she was having a sensory overload. It wasn't that she didn't like the noise or lights, it was that her sensory system was overwhelmed. After getting the right support, Lily learned ways to manage those sensitivities, and her behavior improved. If you've noticed that your child seems especially distressed by certain sounds, like vacuum cleaners or sirens, or even by things like clothing tags or the texture of food, it might be worth considering sensory processing issues. Next up, let's talk about speech patterns. One of the more subtle signs of autism that might fly under the radar is delayed or unusual speech. This can show up in different ways. Some children might have speech that's delayed compared to their peers. Others might repeat phrases or words, a behavior known as echolalia, or speak in a monotone voice. It might seem quirky at first, but these patterns can be a signal that your child is struggling to communicate in the typical way. I remember working with a child named Noah, who didn't start speaking until he was almost 3. His parents thought he was just a late talker, but when Noah did start speaking, he repeated the same phrases over and over again. Things like, "I want juice," but in a robotic tone. What they initially thought was just an odd quirk was actually a sign of autism. Once they recognized it, they were able to start working with a speech therapist who helped Noah build better communication skills. If you notice that your child is speaking later than their peers, or if they tend to repeat certain words or phrases, it's worth keeping an eye on. Sometimes it's more than just a phase. It can be a sign of autism. Repetitive behaviors are another classic. but often overlooked sign of autism. These can include things like hand flapping, rocking, or an intense interest in a specific topic or object. It might look like your child is just being quirky or hyper-focused on one thing, but these repetitive behaviors are common in children with autism. For instance, I worked with a little boy named Aiden who spent hours lining up his toys in a very specific order. His parents initially thought it was just a fun game, but as time went on, Aiden became distressed if his toys were moved or disrupted. His hyper-focus on this repetitive activity was a sign of autism, and when his parents recognized it, they were able to work with a therapist to help him develop more flexible behavior. If your child seems fixated on one activity or shows repetitive movements, it might be a good idea to consult a professional to rule out autism. The last subtle sign we're going to cover is difficulty with transitions. Children with autism often struggle when it comes to changes in routine. This might look like anxiety or meltdowns when they're asked to switch from one activity to another, or when their environment changes. It can be something as simple as switching from playing with toys to eating dinner, or as big as moving to a new house. I once worked with a child named Sophie, who had an incredible routine in the mornings. She would get upset and cry if there was even the smallest disruption to her routine. Her parents thought she was just being difficult, but it turned out that she was having a hard time with the shift in activity, something that's very common in children with autism. Once her parents recognized this, they were able to create a more predictable routine for her, which helped Sophie manage transitions much better. If your child becomes upset or anxious when it's time to leave a favorite place, or if they struggle to shift from one activity to another, this could be a sign of autism. I'm really curious to hear from you all. Have you noticed any of these subtle signs in your own child? Or maybe in a child you know? You might be thinking, "Oh, that sounds familiar," or "I didn't realize that was a sign of autism." But here's the thing. If you don't subscribe right now, you might miss out on the next video that could provide the answer to the exact worry you have about your child. Why wait until it's too late? Drop a comment if you're hesitant to subscribe, but know this: you might regret it if your child's development is delayed because you didn't act fast enough. Before we wrap up, if you're looking for more in-depth guidance on supporting your child, I highly recommend checking out Autism Positive Parenting by Sharon Davin. This book is packed with practical strategies and insights that can help you on your parenting journey. You can find it on Amazon, and I've also included some other great book recommendations in the description below. So don't hesitate to take a look and grab your copy. Trust me, it's a resource you won't want to miss. We talked about 5 subtle signs of autism that many parents might overlook. 1. Social engagement issues. Difficulty making eye contact, reading social cues, or engaging with others. 2. Sensory sensitivities. Being either overly sensitive or undersensitive to things like sound, light, or texture. 3. Delayed or unusual speech. Speech delays, repeating phrases, or speaking in a monotone voice. 4. Repetitive behaviors. Engaging in repetitive movements or fixations on specific activities or objects. 5. Difficulty with transitions. Struggling to move from one activity to another or getting anxious when there's a change in routine. Recognizing these signs early is so important. It can lead to early intervention, which can make a huge difference in your child's development and their ability to navigate the world around them. The earlier you identify these signs, the better equipped you'll be to get the support your child needs. If you found this video helpful and think it might benefit someone else, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it with other parents who might be in the same situation. I'll be honest, if you don't subscribe now, you might be missing out on life-changing insights that could change the course of your child's future. Would you be okay with that? Or would you rather regret not subscribing when you see another parent help their child because they stayed ahead of the curve? Subscribe now, before it's too late. And if you want more actionable advice, make sure you check out our other videos. Thank you again for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, you're doing an amazing job. Take care.